Hi, Joel Wynn again. More songs of a true-eyed brother. The last one I introduced the ideas of Christ and Christianity a little bit, and I know this is going to bother some people, and I don't mind. It should bother you. You could say that all of those ideas about the divine mystery that are pretty much typical of modern Christian institutional religions, they're pretty sour. They're pretty weak. They're pretty conformed not to the truth. They're not interested in the truth of a lot of those traditions. They're interested in their dogmas. They're interested in their different teachings. If you look at the history of how these different teachings arose, you have a long period of time when Roman Catholicism existed, and pretty much anybody who disagreed with him got killed. Then you had a period of time with Luther and what's called the Reformation, and Protestantism comes into existence. And then once Protestantism sort of develops the freedom to amend itself, then all of a sudden you have a proliferation of Protestant churches. There are all kinds of Protestant rites, and they're all very different from each other. And they all start with sort of a charismatic individual who thinks he has a good connection to God and better than anybody else. And then you end up with all these different churches that don't agree with each other. And of course that's one of the things that ought to be noticed by people who practice these different practices. Psychologically, people say, well, I'm entitled to my beliefs. Well, that's true in a certain sense, in a kind of existential sense, but the fact is, in the age of science, this has resulted in religion coming under a lot of criticism by scientific thinkers who say, well, now, wait a minute, all these things can't be true because they don't agree with each other. I mean, one of the things that we who do science, we look for something where there's agreement. We find at least a consensus on what the best theory is, and certainly a consensus on what are admissible facts. But when we look at what people do who are churched and how they approach the situation, we find ourselves going, ah, good grief. So you have books by Christopher Hitchens and other people who just lambast Christian thinking, and with a lot of justification. Now, again, from a standpoint of a song of the true-eyed brother, I'm going to talk a lot about the divine mystery, but sometimes I'm going to use the word Christ and Christian, and I'm going to refer to the Gospels. Why? Because if you're a scientist and a scientist of the Spirit, you're interested in the truth. The problem is, of course, if I use that language, people are going to think, oh, he's talking about that. Well, I hate that. I agree with you. You should hate it. So we kind of do this dance which has got this problem in it. Let's just be kind to each other a little bit and not assume that if I use a term like Christ, I mean a particular thing that somebody else has meant when they use that term. I'm going to try as much as possible to use the word the Creator and the divine mystery, but the fact is going to be that something happened in Palestine 2,000 years ago, which we are still, even after the true-eyed brother gets done talking, not going to understand very well. Now, for example, one of the things that Christ said, and this is in John, he said, I have much more to say to you, but you can't bear it just yet. Now think about that. I have much more to say to you, but you can't bear it just yet. And of course, if you study the various Gospels, you realize that a lot of things got said to other members of the circle around Christ, and these things were different from the four Gospels and the things that the church took up and created as an important element of their work. So anyway, that's the problem there. Now, in a similar kind of way, when I get to the problem of evil, I can absolutely guarantee you that people are going to hate it. They are not going to like what's involved in the problem of evil and understanding the problem of evil. And it's going to be one of those things where what really is going on is people don't like the truth. They would rather do anything than face the truth. I mean, this is what we see in addiction, for example. We see people who don't want to face the truth. They don't want anything to do with the truth. The truth scares the hell out of them because it's very personal. When you get to the problem of evil, it's very personal. Remember I said this is about you? Well, when we talk about evil, we're going to talk about that part of your inside, which we could call the shadow or the double. It's not nice. You have something that's part of you that's not nice. You do not nice things. I do not nice things. Everybody does not nice and stupid things. We got to face it. But people aren't going to like it. One of the things people aren't going to like is we're going to have to borrow some concepts from the East, like reincarnation and karma. Well, these aren't Christian. These aren't Christian. How can you talk about Christ and talk about reincarnation and karma? Well, if you read the Gospels very carefully, you'll find that those ideas are in there. Remember? I have much more to say to you, but you aren't ready for it yet. Okay? So, there we are. There's that and a lot of other stuff to come.